The excerpt of Norwegian Wood by the Beatles that I'll be teaching you today contains two different chords that you'll play with your left hand and a very simple melody that you'll play with your right hand. You can download the free specialized sheet music of Norwegian Wood by clicking on the link directly below this video player. If you've already printed out the sheet music, then let's get started. Now, you may have noticed that the music looks very elementary, but I promise you, this is all you need to create a professional, full-sounding piano arrangement. It's very easy to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it in this short 10-minute video lesson. So if you're ready, let's start with the right-hand melody. Okay, here's middle C. Our starting note for Norwegian Wood is going to be with our fourth finger on the second D directly above middle C. So we're going to start with our fourth finger. It's a good idea to write in the fingering above certain notes. So I suggest writing in a 4 over that first D. Now, we'll be able to keep our hand in what's called a 5-finger position all the way up to almost the very end of line 1. So here we go. So I'll stop every time I'll suggest a fingering. So here we go. Now, we're getting ready to play that C. Now, normally your third finger would land on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to bring your fourth finger over. Now that'll give you enough fingers to where you can play your second finger on that G, which is the last note of line 1, which also frees you up. It gives you a free finger for that F, which is the first note of line 2. Then you want a thumb on the E, and then that last note of the song, you're just going to bring your second finger over. Alright, so here we go. Let's do that again. So fourth finger on that starting note, fourth finger on the C, second finger on that last note, the G of line 1. Okay, beginning of line 2, thumb on that F, so write in a 1 underneath that. 1 on that E, bring your second finger over on the D. Once again, it's a good idea to write in the fingering as you go. Okay, replay this part as many times as necessary, and when you feel comfortable, move on to the next part where I will teach you the left-hand chords. Okay, our first of two chords is the G major chord. So here is middle C. We're going to start with that G directly below middle C. We're going to put our pinky on that G, and a G major chord is G, B, and D. A good fingering is pinky, middle finger, and thumb. A good alternative would be your ring finger, which is your fourth finger, your pointer, number 2, and your thumb, which is your first finger. So either 5-3-1, which is pinky, middle finger, thumb, or 4-2-1, which is ring finger, pointer, and thumb. So try each and just use whichever is more comfortable for you. Okay, so that entire first line is all G chord. When we get to line 2, we have the F chord. So you're just going to take the G chord and slide each note down, slide your whole hand down 1. Our F major chord is F, A, and C. And then our last chord, now it looks like we're going to go back to the G chord. The only problem is our melody note is the D, which just happens to be the top note of that G chord. So they're going to collide. So what we're going to do, so we can get a full sound here, we're going to take the G chord and we're going to play what's called an inversion. An inversion is just playing the notes of the chord in a different order. So, since this top note is the one that's going to collide with our right hand melody, I'm just going to take that D. Now I'm going to keep the G and the B in the same spot. Now I'm going to have to shift fingers here, okay? But I'm going to basically take that D and put it on the bottom of the chord. So I'm still playing a G, a B, and a D. I'm just playing the D in a different position now. And this is what we call an inverted chord. So a G chord from left to right is pinky on the D, second finger on the G, and thumb on the B. Alright, so our three chords again is the G chord, which is called root position, G, B, and D. Our F chord in root position is F, A, and C. And then the last chord of the song is the G chord again, but we're going to do it inverted. And from left to right is D, G, and B. And once again, all we did was take the D and moved it to the bottom of the chord. Okay, so replay this part as many times as necessary, and when you feel comfortable, move on to the next part, and I'll show you how to play both hands together. Okay, Norwegian Wood with both hands played together. So our first chord is the G chord. Our first melody note is the D. Now you'll notice that the D, right above that D, you'll see the G chord symbol. So since they line up vertically together, that tells you to play them together. Now, you'll notice there is no chord in the next measure. Normally, I would always suggest you want to play a chord at the beginning of every single measure. But this song moves pretty quickly, so you can kind of get by without playing a chord in that second measure there. So when we get to measure 3, once again we have a melody note, the B, in the right hand. Right directly above it is the G chord, so they get played together. Okay, next measure we're not going to play a chord. Last measure of the song, we have that G in the right hand. Once again the chord is the G major chord. They get played together. Beginning of line 2, we have our right hand F note in the melody. Directly above that is the F chord symbol. That gets played together. And then the last chord of the song is the G major chord. That's where we're going to invert it, and that gets played with the D in the right hand. Alright, so this is just a basic arrangement. Let me play through this up to speed, and then I'll show you something we can do with the left hand chords to kind of spice this up a little bit. So here we go. Just basic arrangement of Norwegian Wood. Okay, so that's just the basic arrangement. Practice that, get comfortable with that. When you get real comfortable with that, what you might want to do with the left hand chord, instead of playing all the notes at the same time, you might want to play what's called a broken chord, where you just play the notes individually. That's what I did in the beginning of this tutorial. So instead of playing the melody note with the chord, what you're going to do is you're going to play that first melody note with the bottom note of the chord. And since there are no other melody notes in that measure, just play the other 2 remaining notes of the chord. Now, keep all those notes held down. Play all the notes of the next measure. Now we're to that third measure. Once again, we still have a G chord, so we're going to play that B with the first note of the broken chord. There are no other melody notes in that measure, so just finish out the chord. Okay, next measure, we're not going to play a chord, so play those melody notes. Okay, we're at the last measure of line 1. We're going to do another broken chord in the left hand, so once again the melody note gets played with the bottom note of the chord. There are no other melody notes, so just finish the chord. Now, line 2 with the F chord. Now, the right hand has a pretty busy melody there, so we don't really need to spice up the left hand at all, so we'll just play the full chord like we did. And then we'll finish the song as we did before. So here it is with the broken chords up to speed. Okay, well I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. My name is Guy Fawkes and this is EasyChordPianoLessons.com.